o'clock, so we're going to call the April meeting of the Environmental Resources Committee to order. We will begin with item number 2, the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Following the pledge, please stay standing for a brief moment of silence and reflection. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will move on to item number 3, public comment, 15-minute limit. I've got 2 individuals signed up to speak today. Rules for public comment: you just have to approach the mic in the back of the room, say your name, and you don't need to give your full address. You just need to state your municipality. 15-minute limit. I don't imagine we're going to go to time today, but just for the sake of specifying, each person will have 7.5 minutes to address the committee today. And we will begin with Kevin Jean Schmidtke. If you'd want to approach the microphone at the back of the room. Name, municipality.
Town of Day, Kevin Schmidtke. So I'm here again. I call it the manure issue because I don't know what to call it, so I apologize. 2 months ago, just a quick rerun, and don't quote me on my dates, it's just rough. 2 months ago, I went to the town of Wien for the manure meeting, watched the presentation, talked to them, handed them my business card with all my info on because they were looking for help. They stated that, you know, again, it was in their, I think it was 7 or 9 months they were doing testing already, but they could do limited testing because the research costs money, stuff like that. So then came up here last month, again, spoke, listened to them. And I'm not here to bash them, okay? So that's not the issue here. Came, listened to them. Mr. Chairperson, you told them that, hey, there's 7 people on this list that might be interested in helping. Waited halfway through the month, finally gave up, that we didn't get no contact. And then they finally did do an email, March 21st. What I did, because I believe in trust but verification. So what I did is I went to Ag Source in Marshall. I got 5 water bottle samples. I went to Highway 34 by the train bridge for the people that know that area. Well, actually, let me start by ours. So I pulled 5 samples. Hookman's Bridge is down by us where we live. It's called many different things. So it's the end of River Run Road. Did the phosphorus, because that's what everybody's complaining about is the phosphorus. So, and down by our stream, the result was 0.37. And then I went to the train bridge on Highway 34. That was 0.23. Then I went to Highway Old Bridge. That was 0.05. I went to Lisa's Landing, which is 0.038, or 0.38, sorry. And then I went to Old Plain Park Boat Landing. That's 0.110. It took me, start to finish, it took me 4 hours. $20 a sample, I got $100 in it. I guess all I'm asking for out of the committee, and yes, I am going to the meeting tomorrow. I'm looking to help, not cause trouble. I guess all I ask for out of the committee is if we're going to research something, can we trust but verify? I mean, each month, if this is really a serious thing and manure is the issue, each month you guys should be getting a report just like this. It's $100, 5 samples. And then if we keep getting the reports, at least now we got something to go on. Because the question still isn't what's causing it. And I don't know. I looked on the internet because I'm not a computer person, so these samples could be low or I could start growing a 3rd arm. I don't know. I'm not a researcher. I'm just saying everybody says everything's so expensive, 4 hours and $100. So if I can give this to you, I don't know if you can take paperwork or not, but this is what I would like to see each month to at least start so we can verify what's going on every month in the water. Once we can verify some numbers, Then we have to start tracking what is it actually coming from. There isn't many small farms left. I mean, is it when they spray the bridges, is that stuff running in? Is it salt? I'll still go back to, the paper mill, the airport, the landfill. I don't know. Is it coming from the north, from the counties to the north? So if I'm able to give you this paperwork, I would like to, and that's all I got for today. Thank you.
Thank you. And for anybody else that'd like to provide something, yep, you can provide it to our staff and they'll share it to the rest of the committee. Okay. Moving on, we have Trin Spindler. If you want to approach the mic at the back of the room, and then name and municipality, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Trin Spindler. I'm from Town O'Day. I'm here today as a small Wisconsin dairy farmer in Marathon County. I am also part of the Marathon County Farm Bureau Board. And I have a couple of things for you today that we were introduced to this last week that will help with this manure ordinance as well, more background and more research. So the first thing I'm going to provide to the board is the book by Brian Rieslinger. It's called Land Rich, Cash Poor, and it gives you a really good insight into what's happening to the Wisconsin dairy farmer currently. It'll give you background on what struggles they're going through, how farms are transitioning back from the 1800s through today. So that's the first thing. Secondly, just last week, there was a conference on water quality and agriculture at Marquette University. And I have the information here for you guys on how to find that on YouTube and watch it. It's a really, really great conference. It goes into details on exactly what we're talking about here today with the manure ordinance and what they're being done all over the Wisconsin state and the nation, and if it's working or not working. So as we can just see from what I saw, and I would still like you guys to actually watch it, is that they're finding that the nutrient management plans are a great tool as best management practices. And this is what most of the farmers we're talking to would really like to see more of. Tell us how we can save money. Tell us how we can farm better. But don't drag us down saying this is how you have to do things. What they're finding is that a lot of the ordinances are not really helping, and that it's taking a long, long time for you to see any effect of any of this. This stuff stays in the soil for a long time. I'm not saying we're not supposed to do anything. I'm just saying you have to be patient to see results. That's what the college professor figured out in the study. But I would really like you guys to dig into it and really listen to the whole thing. It also includes a Q&A with a panel with people from the Wisconsin DNR, the Farm Bureau, and Department of Extension Services, and Clean Wisconsin. So you'll hear from all different panel members on the same issue that we're talking about. I also hope this is something we can discuss further in the upcoming meetings with the CPC, which I'm hoping I can make it to, but as a small farmer, sometimes we can't always make the meetings, but we will definitely do our best. I will include my cards in here. If anybody has questions, please reach out. I'm happy to talk to you guys anytime. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. All right, that is everybody that I've got signed up to speak today, so we will move on to item number 4, approval of the February 4, 2025 committee minutes. They were in your packets. Motion to approve be in order. Motion by Drabeck, second by Supervisor Seefeld. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are on to item number 5, operational functions required by statute, ordinance, or resolution. A, public hearings, review possible actions and possible recommendations to the county board for its consideration. County zoning changes. I'd ask that everybody that is here that is not offering testimony to the committee or member of the committee to please mute your phone, or if you're joining us electronically, to please mute yourselves until you are ready to provide testimony. The Marathon County ERC is now meeting in public hearing on the location, plan specifications, and purpose of the following projects. Listed on the agenda, they are 5A, 1 through 6. Members of the committee present, myself, Supervisor Langenhahn, we have Vice Chair Ritter here, we have Supervisor Seepelt, Supervisor Shaneborn, Supervisor Unger, Supervisor Kroll, Supervisor Drabeck, and Marilyn Bend, our Wisconsin Towns and Villages representative. We also have staff present to assist us during the hearing process. The establishment of the ERC is required by law for purposes of administration of county ordinances and land conservation programs. This committee must follow state laws and local ordinances as written. This committee cannot change or ignore any part of the ordinances or state laws and must apply the laws as written. The purpose of this committee is to hear and decide on proposed ordinances and ordinance revisions, rezoning petitions, and provide direction on land conservation and planning programs. The ERC will give a full and fair hearing to any person applying for a rezone petition. A taped recording is being made of the meeting, which will assist with preparation of written hearing minutes. The committee is interested in hearing all pertinent comments and questions. Each hearing will be opened by reading the public notice and allowing staff to present a staff report, including evidence from any on-site inspection. The applicant and anyone wishing to testify will be sworn in and allowed to give testimony. Witnesses will be called in the order of those first in favor, second opposed, and then third as interested. One second. And then third as interested may appear. Committee may ask questions of the zoning staff and applicant. It is necessary that we set a reasonable time limit on individual statements on the overall length of the hearing. To promote orderly discussion, anyone wishing to present oral testimony or ask questions relating to the hearing should state your name and present your testimony or question so it becomes part of the official record. We request you avoid repetition. Once the committee has all the necessary facts, the chairman will close the hearing, allowing no further testimony, and the committee will deliberate and decide in front of the public whether the applicant has met the standards in the ordinance. No additional testimony from the public is allowed during the deliberation. However, the committee may question staff for purposes of clarification. After a decision is made, the committee will proceed to the next hearing. Many of the decisions made by the committee are a recommendation to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors, who will take up the matter at a future county board meeting. Please contact staff for more information regarding this county board process. And we are going to get started here with the 6 that we've got this afternoon. We are now going to hear the application of 5A1. We have the Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust, Farmland Preservation to General Agriculture and Town of Old Plain. And we are going to begin with our staff report by swearing in Garrett. So Garrett, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
All right, this is for the Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust, petition to rezone land, staff report April 1st, 2025, for the Environmental Resources Committee. Petitioner is Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust, located at 209818 Drake Avenue, Stratford, Wisconsin, 54484. Property owner is Zopfi Family Farms Plus LLC, located at 406 North Gwynn Street, Loyal, Wisconsin, 54446. Area proposed to be rezoned is located at the intersection of Drake Ave and Old Plain Road. The petition of Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from FP Farmland Preservation to GA General Agriculture located in part of the south half of the southeast quarter of Section 35, Township 27 North, Range 3 East, Town of Old Plain. The area proposed to be rezoned to GA General Agriculture is identified as Lot 1, Lot 2, Lot 3, and Lot 4 of the preliminary CSM parent parcel numbers as shown. The Town of Old Plain Town Board met on February 11th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Town recommendation. On February 11th, 2025, the Town of Old Plain Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation. The rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Any questions for Garrett? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Garrett, I'm curious, I'm looking at the farmland preservation actual petition. It looks different than the one that was submitted by the Zopfi family. If we're looking at agenda item, just like you're looking for the Weaver petition, it has a specific form because it is farmland preservation. I'm curious if this is the wrong form that is filled out.
So there are two forms that can be filled out. Generally, we do want the farmland preservation form filled out, but this is the one that they did submit.
Okay.
And it is acceptable.
Okay. I was just looking to see, it has some information that wasn't listed, mainly acreage, like a total acreage from farmland preservation that will be removed. Was this was this being used as a DACAP, AEA site, stuff like that? Do you have that information?
I don't have the information on whether they were collecting, actually I do. I don't believe that were collecting farm preservation credits on it. Because when we had Kirk Langfoss, our conservation analyst, he took a look to see if they are under contract, and I don't believe that they are. And it does say that on the staff report, and it would be on page 23 of the packet, approximately 77.78 acres will be converted from farm pres to general agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
So some follow-up then, is the site being actively farmed?
It is currently actively being farmed, yes.
What's the need for the zone change then?
From what the applicant tells me, and the applicant is also here, they're looking to sell off what would be Lot 2, which is mainly the wooded portion, I believe, to another family member. And then they're kind of consolidating some things with the Farm Plus, with the Zopfi Farm Plus LLC, and then the Zopfi Farm Irrevocable Trust, which is Lot 4.
Okay.
It looks like they're separating all fields off from the original house and then from the woods.
Sure.
So Lot 1 and Lot 3 will remain field.
Okay. Other questions? Future land use plan, what is the area being considered to be?
According to the two Old Plains future land use map from their 2006 plan, it is cropland, forest land, other agriculture, and single-family residential.
Okay, thank you. That's all I've got. Anything else? All right, we're good.
We will move on to public testimony. So like I said earlier, we'll call first in favor, second opposed, third as interested may appear. It sounds like there is a representative from the Zopfi family in the audience with us. I will just say this. To offer testimony, I just have to swear you in. It shouldn't hurt. All you have to do is go to the back of the room, raise your right hand, I'll swear you in, you're good to go. I would recommend you do that because then if we have questions, we can then ask you them. If we don't have you under oath, then we can't take that testimony. That's why we have to swear you in. So if anybody would like to speak in favor of item 5A1, the Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust, I'd ask that you approach the microphone at the back of the room at this time. I'll call again. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of 5A1, please identify yourself at this time. Call one last time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor? All right. I'll call once for this one. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to item 5A1, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing, hearing none. Anybody wishing to speak is interested, I'll call once. Please identify yourself at this time for item 5A1. Okay. Seeing as no one wishes to testify for item 5A1, I am now declaring the public hearing closed. The committee will now deliberate on the application, apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. I think a motion to approve here would be in order if anybody would like to make that. Joseph Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion for the petition of the Zopfi Family Irrevocable Trust to amend the County Code of Ordinance of Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from FP Farm Preservation to GA General Ag in the town of Eau Plaine and to pass the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Motion's been made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Ritter. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on, 5A2, Chris Fury on behalf of David and Kristen Gruna, General Agriculture to Rural Residential, Town of Elderon, and we are back to Garrett.
All right, so this is for David and Kristen Gruna, petition to rezone land for staff report, April 1st, 2025, for the Environmental Resource Committee. The petitioner is Chris Fieri at 5310 Willow Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owners are David and Krista Gruna at 213-965 Lakefront Drive, Hatley, Wisconsin, 54440. Area proposed to be rezoned is located near the end of Lakefront Drive. The petition of Chris Fieri on behalf of David and Kristen Gruna to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from GA General Agriculture to RR Rural Residential, described as part of Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map Number 10349, recorded in Volume 42 of Certified Survey Maps on page 172, located in part of the southwest quarter of the fractional northwest quarter of Section 19, Township 27 North, Range 10 East, Town of Elderon. Area to be rezoned to RR Rural Residential is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM, parent parcel number as shown. The Town of Elderon Town Board, we did not receive a resolution from the Town Board, so we are not sure when or if they have met on this issue yet. But Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. Town recommendation, like I said before, we have not received a resolution or recommendation from the Town of Elderon at this time.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you, Garrett. I don't even think you need to go any farther with this. We'll just postpone this.
All right.
Yeah, we don't have complete information to make a decision here. I think I'm just going to close the hearing for this one. I don't think we
Okay.
need a motion to postpone. I'll reopen the hearing next month.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So let's move on to 5A3. Daniel Weaver, Farmland Preservation, General Agriculture, Town Hall.
All right, this is for Daniel Weaver, petition to rezone land. Staff report should be April 1st, 2025 for the Environmental Resources Committee. The petitioner is Daniel Weaver at 228162 Silver Maple Lane, Abbotsford, Wisconsin, 54405. Property owner is the same. Area proposed to be rezoned is located just south of the intersection of Silver Maple Lane and Sycamore Lane. The petition of Daniel Weaver to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from FP Farmland Preservation to GA General Agriculture, located in the northeast quarter of the fractional northeast quarter and the southeast quarter of the fractional northeast quarter of Section 5, Township 28 North, Range 2 East, Town of Hall, parcel PIN as listed. The Town of Hall Town Board met on February 10th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. On February 10th, 2025, the Town of Hall Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Questions for Garrett? Supervisor Kroll.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Garrett, I'm curious on the application, on the petition, on Section 10A. It states that the structurally was recently built and inspected by CPZ. I'm curious just about timing and process. My thought is that a permit would need to be pulled first before a structure is built, but maybe
Correct.
I'm wrong. So maybe just walk us through what's going on here.
Yeah, so what happened was that Mr. Weaver pulled a permit back in, I believe, 2022 to build a storage shed for his own personal use on the above property. We received a complaint from the town that he's using it as a rental equipment business. So what we're doing here is we're trying to bring that property back into compliance. The way that we do that is through opening up an avenue to hopefully be able to run that business. The way to do that is to rezone the property to general agriculture, which would open up the possibility of a conditional use permit for a new and used equipment rental, sales and service business on that property. So the timing was a little bit off because it's more of a compliance issue at this point. The Board of Adjustment met, I believe it was last Thursday, and then granted a conditional use permit for general agriculture with the condition that if the property is not rezone to general agriculture, the conditional use then becomes null and void.
Okay. Well, thank you for that information. All right, any other questions from the committee? All right, we'll go to public testimony. So anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A3, please approach the microphone in the back of the room or unmute yourself if you're joining us electronically. I'll call one more time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A3, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing and hearing none, I'll call once. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to item 5A3, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing none, anybody wishing to speak as interested, I'm calling once. On item 5A3, please identify yourself at this time. All right. Seeing as no one wishes to testify for item 5A3, I'm now declaring the public hearing on Daniel Weaver, Farmland Preservation to General Agriculture, Town of Hall now closed. Committee will now deliberate on the application, apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. I think this is another one where a motion to approve would be in order. Anybody would like to make that motion? Supervisor Ritter?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion to approve petition of Daniel Weaver to amend the General Code of Ordinances for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from FP Farmland Preservation to GA General Agriculture in the town of Hull due to town and staff recommendations.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Draybeck. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are on to 5A4, Brandon Layer on behalf of Brass Properties, urban residential to rural residential, town of Green Valley. Garrett, go ahead.
Right, this is for Brandon Laher, petition to rezone land, staff report April 1st, 2025, for the Environmental Resources Committee. Petitioner is Brandon Laher, located at 1015 South 17th Ave, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401. Property owner is Brass Properties, located at the same address. Area proposed to be rezoned is located just at the end of Cottage Road. The petition of Brandon Laher on behalf of Brass Properties to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from UR urban residential to RR rural residential, described as Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map recorded in Volume 23, page 201, number 6373, document number 946052, located in the part of the northeast quarter of Section 9, Township 26 North, Range 5 East, Town of Green Valley. Parcel number is shown. Town of Green Valley, Town Board met on February 11th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resource Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. On February 11th, 2025, Town of Green Valley Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPC staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPC staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Questions for Garrett? Supervisor Kroll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Garrett, so I'm just looking at the petition, and it's stating this is potentially for personal storage, yet on Section 4A, it's saying that it needs a septic system, a well, bathroom, and the electrical boxes that are associated with it. So I guess I'm just curious the reasoning for a rezone from urban to like a rural, if it's just for personal storage.
Yeah, so what, this is another, there is not a building here. He's going through this process first prior to obtaining a permit for a storage building. So he has those things on site now. He has a bathroom with a compliant septic system, a well, electrical. That's all there currently and is compliant. He wants to build a building that is larger than the maximum that's allowed in urban residential. So rural residential allows him to go up to 2,000 square feet maximum. So that's what he is attempting to do. And then he will go for a conditional use permit after this, if this rezone takes place, in order to get a storage, or an accessory structure prior to a principal structure.
Great, thank you.
All right, other questions? All right, I think we're good on this one. We'll move to public testimony. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of 5A4, please identify yourself at this time by muting yourself or approaching the mic in the back of the room. All right, I'll call one more time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of 5A4, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing none. Calling once. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to item 5A4, please identify yourself at this time. All right, calling once. Anybody wishing to speak as interested on item 5A4, please identify yourself at this time. All right, seeing as no one wishes to testify for this application, I am now declaring the public hearing on Brendan Thayer on behalf of Brass Properties, Urban Residential to Rural Residential, Town of Green Valley now closed. Committee will now deliberate on the application, apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. Yeah, I think a motion to approve here would be in order as well. Anybody like to make that motion? Supervisor Seefeld, looking a little trigger happy there. There you go.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll make a motion for petition of Brandon Lear on behalf of Brass Properties to amend the General Code of Ordinance of Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from UR urban residential to RR rural residential in the town of Green Valley, and to pass the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Shaneborn. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. All right, almost done here. Item number 5, Christopher Schumacher on behalf of Marcus and Sarah Nolt, General Ag to Commercial, Town of Frankfurt. Garrett, go ahead.
All right, this is from Marcus and Sarah Nolt, petition to rezone land, staff report April 1st, 2025 for the Environmental Resources Committee. The petitioner is Christopher Schumacher at 235-619 108th Avenue, Wausau, Wisconsin, 54401. Property owners are Marcus and Sarah Nolt, located at 114256 Huckleberry Road, Edgar, Wisconsin, 54426. The petition of Christopher Schumacher on behalf of Marcus and Sarah Nolt to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County's Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone lands from GA General Agriculture to C Commercial, located in part of the northwest quarter of Section 15 to 28 North, Range 3 East, Town of Frankfurt. Area to be rezoned to C Commercial is described as Lot 1 of the preliminary CSM. Parent parcel number as shown. The Town of Frankfurt Town Board met on March 10th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. On March 10th, 2025, the Town of Frankfurt Town Board recommended approval. The Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Missed it. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resource Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Questions for Garrett?
Mr. Chair, I do believe we have a representative online as well.
Okay.
Mr. Matthias Nolt, and then the surveyor, Chris Schumacher.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Garrett from the committee? All right. I think we're good here, Garrett. Thank you. Okay. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A5, please either approach the mic at the back of the room or unmute yourself online. Calling one more time. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A5, please identify yourself at this time. All right, hearing none. Calling once. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to item 5A5, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing none. Anybody wishing to speak as interested for item 5A5, calling once, please identify yourself at this time. All right. Seeing as no one else wishes to testify for this application, I'm now declaring the public hearing on Christopher Schumacher on behalf of Marcus and Sarah Knoll, General Agriculture to Commercial Town of Frankfurt, now closed. Committee will now deliberate on the application, apply the standards of zoning ordinance. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Supervisor Seefeld, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the petition of Christopher Schumacher on behalf of Marcus and Sarah Knoll to amend the General Code Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from GA General Agriculture to C Commercial in the town of Frankfurt, and to approve the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Ritter. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Last one, 5A6, Tim Vreeland on behalf of Mark and Katie Luby, General Agriculture to Rural Estate, Town of Reed. Go ahead, Garrett.
All right, this is from Mark and Katie Luby, petition to rezone land, staff report April 1st, 2025, Environmental Resources Committee. Petitioner is Tim Vreeland at 6103 Dawn Street, Weston, Wisconsin, 54476. Property owners are Mark and Katie Luby at 146104 Julie Lane, Mosinee, Wisconsin, 54455. Area proposed to be rezoned is located at the end of Hidden Lake Lane. The petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Mark and Katie Luby to amend the General Code of Ordinance for Marathon County, Chapter 17 zoning code to rezone land from GA General Agriculture to RE Rural Estate, described as part of Lot 1 of Certified Survey Map number 9880, document number 1115740, located in the northeast quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 33, Township 27 North, Range 9 East, Town of Reed. The area proposed to be rezoned to RE Rural Estate is described as Lot 2 of the preliminary CSM. Parent parcel number is shown. Town of Reed Town Board met on February 19th, 2025. Marathon County Environmental Resources Committee is meeting today, April 1st, 2025 at 3 p.m. A legal advertisement was published in the Wausau Daily Herald. Notice of the zoning change request was also sent by regular mail to adjacent property owners within 300 feet of the subject property. On February 19th, 2025, the Town of Reed Town Board recommended approval to Marathon County's Environmental Resources Committee. Staff recommendation, the rezone meets all the zoning district standards as it relates to size, frontage, access, and dimension. The rezone also appears to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the town's comprehensive plan and as indicated by the town resolution. Based on the information provided above, findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the town's recommendation, it appears the rezone request meets all the rezone criteria and standards for rezoning. Therefore, CPZ staff recommend that the Environmental Resources Committee recommend approval to the Marathon County Board of Supervisors. Should the rezone be approved by Marathon County Board of Supervisors, CPZ staff recommend that the town update its comprehensive plan to reflect the zoning change if applicable.
Questions for Garrett? All right. Public testimony. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A6, please identify yourself at this time. Calling once more. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of item 5A6, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing and hearing none. I'll call once. Anybody wishing to speak opposed to item 5A6, please identify yourself at this time. Seeing and hearing none. Finally, one last call. Anybody wishing to speak as interested for item 5A6, calling once. Anybody wants to do that, please identify yourself at this time. All right. Seeing as no one else wishes to testify for item 5A6, I'm now declaring the public hearing on Tim Vreeland on behalf of Mark and Katie Luby, General Ag to Rural Estate, Town of Reed, now closed. Committee will now deliberate and apply the standards of the zoning ordinance. Motion to approve, I think, would be in order here. We want to make it. Supervisor Seefeld.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will make a motion for the petition of Tim Vreeland on behalf of Mark and Katie Luby to amend the General Code of Ordinance of Marathon County, Chapter 17 Code to rezone land from GA General Agriculture to RE in the town of Reed and forward the conclusions of law and forward it to the county board.
Motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Shaneborn. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Okay. Got through those. Staff, do we know if anybody is here from the town of Ringgold today for item B1? And the reason I ask is that I might shift an agenda item up farther if there isn't one. Don't see anybody online? Anybody here for, was it 5B1 in person here? Doesn't look that way. So what I want to do, because I know we had a couple of people, oh, wait, I think they might have left us already. Never mind. I was going to move up the manure discussion, but it looks like those individuals are not present, so we're going to keep going forward with the agenda. Okay, so we are on to 5B, review and possible recommendations to the county board for its consideration, town zoning changes pursuant to Wisconsin statute 60.62 sub 3. We have one, Town of Ringgold, town zoning ordinance update, solar energy systems and wind energy systems ordinance. Chad, what's up?
Okay, so if the committee could recall, 2 ERC ago at the February meeting, the town of Ringgold proposed a wind and solar ordinance. Through that review from Corporation Counsel and myself, we found several areas in there that were more restrictive than the state. And basically, it was just them requiring permits for systems that the state would have control over, and they don't have the authority to require those permits. What's in front of you right now is their amended ordinance. They did go ahead and take the recommendations of the committee to alter the language, so it's not as required, but it's recommended, which was essentially their goal was to let PSC, the state, and individuals that are looking to put wind and solar in their community, that they would like to be a part of that and would like to go through the permitting process. So Corporation Counsel and myself did a review on this, and they've made the changes that the committee had recommended in the past. So it's just in front of you guys again to move to the county board, and that's kind of where that one stands.
And you and Corp Counsel feel comfortable with this?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, any questions? Marilyn, go ahead.
Is this different than what another town had recommended and you said no?
Yes, so this one, originally it was very similar in the sense that they overextended their authority, but this is a zoning code that they're doing, not a licensing ordinance. And this one right now falls in line with the state's requirements.
Okay, other questions, comments? If not, staff are okay with it. I'd like to see a motion to approve here. Supervisor Drayback.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve the zoning ordinance from the town of Ringgold on wind and solar.
Okay, motion is made. Is there a second? Second by Supervisor Ritter. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, staff, for working with them on this. C and D, we have nothing. 6, educational presentations, outcome monitoring reports, and committee discussion. A, department updates. CPC, Park Rec, and Forestry. Under CPZ, conservation staff on behalf of Wisconsin Land and Water to present to State Joint Finance Committee on April 29, 2025 summary. Kirsty, I think you've got something for us.
Nope, it definitely wasn't. Thank you. Appreciate that. We'll take just 2 minutes of your time. In discussing this with Director Miskimen, she thought it would be prudent to quickly just inform the committee of an upcoming opportunity that we have. We were contacted by Wisconsin Land and Water with a request to give a very brief, I don't know if testimony would be the right word, but maybe a brief ask before the Joint Finance Committee of the Wisconsin Legislature. When they are prepping for budgeting, they have a couple of listening sessions around the state when they are in this season, and one of them is going to be right in Wausau. And so Matt Kruger, the executive director of Wisconsin Land and Water, had asked if we would show up to that joint finance listening session with a small script that they're asking county conservationists to use around the state and ask for $20.2 million in county conservation staffing funds for the state of Wisconsin. So with Director Ms. Simmons' permission, I had agreed to do that, and so I will just briefly be giving a little testimony about why county conservation staffing dollars are so important to the state of Wisconsin. And I'll essentially be giving the same reasons why other county conservationists are also using the same sort of script in other parts of the state. So we just wanted to make you aware of that, and also let you know that was happening, and also let you know that if you are interested in also attending the joint finance listening session, that you're also welcome, and have that opportunity to talk about other priorities you may have as well. So just wanted to keep you in the loop.
Is that the one in Wausau? Okay,
It's at
got
the
it.
tech school.
Okay. All right. Questions, comments from the committee? Marilyn?
Anything that's going on back in Washington DC, will that affect any of the funding that the state of Wisconsin has and that you get to have available?
I'm going to stop you there because I think that's off the agenda. Yeah.
Rescind that, what I said.
Okay. All right. Other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you for the update,
Yeah,
Kirsty.
thank you.
6A2, brief update on the animal waste ordinance proposed amendments work group. Are we back to Kirsty on that one? Okay, very good.
It's been a long day. I've already been down to Madison and back today, so. Just wanted to give you another 2-minute update and good news. The last time we met, we let you know that we are going to work on forming a work group with all different types of stakeholders and farming backgrounds, and so that has happened. Our first work group is tomorrow, April 2nd, at the town of Reet Brock. They've allowed us to use their town hall, and we have 25 participants that have signed up to be in the work group. They fit every category that we've been asked to have in there by our stakeholders. We have several CAFOs, several livestock sighting farms, several mid-size farms, several small dairy farms, several cash croppers. We have 2 town officials. Supervisor Drabeck has agreed to come and sit in with us. We have the DNR, we have WVIC. We have a really good group of people. And we're hoping to have just a really well-rounded, productive discussion. We work together to come up with just a short and sweet set of guiding principles, I guess, for our work group, just talking about being respectful of each other's backgrounds and perspectives. Since we do have so many different types of people in the work group, we want to make sure that everyone is on the same page about being productive together and achieving a common goal. So we're excited to be able to report back to you at the May ERC meeting, because we also have another work group scheduled for April 24th. So we'll get through 2 work groups in April, and so we should have a robust update for you in May.
That sounds good. 25 members makes me a little bit apprehensive because that's almost the size of our county board. But on the other
Well-
hand, it shows that people are engaged, so
Yes.
I hope that the discussions will be thoughtful and efficient.
Absolutely. And given everyone's backgrounds and, the majority of them being farmers, we figured if 20 people signed up, we know not everyone's going to make every meeting. So, probably 15 to 20 people will be at every meeting when we have a full list of 25. So, and that's great. We'll take really thorough notes and share them with the group each time, and we're happy to share them with you too if you would find that helpful.
Okay. If someone came up to me on the street and wanted to participate in the work group, should I tell them to contact CPZ, or how does that work?
Sure, they can contact me.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Questions, comments from the committee? Supervisor Drabeck.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe you said the time. It was 1 o'clock, right?
It's 1 o'clock tomorrow
thank
in
you.
Reet Brock. Just in time for the winter storm to end, so we can all get out on the roads. So,
All right. Anything else from the committee? All right. Thank you, Christie.
okay, thank you.
6A3, review of 2024 and first quarter 2025 budget to actual reports for departments of oversight. I was informed prior to this meeting that 2024, we're going to have to wait on that a little bit yet, but I believe we're going to have a discussion about first quarter 2025, and I believe we have the finance director with us today.
All right, so the paper that I just handed out was a replacement for that first piece of paper on the packet handed out earlier, only because it wasn't segregated down to Fund 101, which is the general fund. Or otherwise, the one that's in the packet covers both the general fund and the grants fund. So in the packet, you have the first quarter for CPZ. I just kind of want to go over how to read the reports and how to analyze them as you start to see these moving forward. So up in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see that it's for conservation planning and zoning. It's for fiscal year 2025 through March. The fund is general fund. And then the headers across the top are ledger accounts. So those are the accounts that the independent numbers are in. You've got the amended budget, so that's anything that's happened, any budget modifications that happen throughout the year. So it's the current budget. Then you've got actuals, which are year-to-date through March of 2025. You've got the budget remaining, which should be your amended budget less your actuals, the percentage used, and then the prior year-to-date budget in that last column. So looking at CPZ here, the first part is the revenues. One thing that we changed in the 2025 reporting structure is that the levy is shown in each individual department. So when you're looking at a general fund year-to-date budget report, on the very bottom where that net changes, it should always say 0. So that means all of your revenues match your expenditures. Moving through there, you'll have your general property, your state grants. You'll have the different fees and zoning permits, all the way down to local departments and donations. In the middle there, it'll say total revenues. Current to date, they have $1,810,009, or 49.36% of their budget. A lot of that's due to the tax levy in there right now. And then underneath there is the expenditures. It's listed out by category, so you'll see personnel, contractual services, materials and supplies, fixed charges, capital outlay, and grants, contributions, indemnities, and other expenditures in there. So far, year-to-date, their expenditures are at $595,433, or 16.24%. At the very bottom of that, it says that revenues over expenditures are $1,214,576. Any questions on that one?
So I know that we have a lot of, well, maybe more than the average department, a number of positions that get funding through grants. So how does that get reflected in this?
Thank you. So this right here is just the general fund. A lot of times you won't see grants in here. If you flip the page in your packet to that second one, it's segregated out by grants only.
Yes.
So you'll see that with CPZ as well as parks, but you will not see it for solid waste because they're an enterprise fund.
Okay. Questions from the committee?
Yep. I'll keep going through them if that's okay.
They might need a little, or we might all need a little time to digest it.
Okay.
But, Lori, did you have something to add? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Nope, that's
My
okay.
bad.
So the second page in that packet there just shows the grants fund. When we're looking at this, the total revenues kind of breaks out whether it's a federal grant, state grant. It doesn't break out the individual grants. It just kind of gives you the collective sum of everything that's in there. Underneath is the expenditures tied to those grants. Generally, you should see that at the end, it should say 0 because your grant revenue should equal your grant expenditures. If there is a negative down there, it's just unbilled receivables, and that's due to quarterly billings or monthly billings. A lot of times we incur those expenditures before we can submit for reimbursement. Moving on to the next one is the Parks Fund. This one is very similar to CPZ in regards to, you'll see the tax levy that's been reported in there, and then you'll have your revenues and expenditures. As it sits right now, the revenue is in excess of $2,102,576. Their expenditure budget is at 11.25, which is what I would expect to see at this time. The next page in there is the grants fund for parks. One thing to note with parks is we are just pulling the cost centers associated with the county. They do have some cost centers that are split with the city. So when you look in here, you'll see in the actuals year-to-date that the revenues and expenditures do balance out to zero, meaning that everything has been billed for. And then the very last one is the solid waste. In solid waste, you will still see that the net change will be zero on there. Again, all of their revenues will be offset by their expenditures, but they do not receive any tax levy. Overall, they are in excess with revenues of $22,720. Their expenditure budget is at 12.6%. It is exactly where I would expect it to be at this time.
So it doesn't, I mean, I'm not a trained finance professional, but nothing jumps out to you as being out of the ordinary then?
No, you may see some individual lines may be over or high at this time. It's usually expenditures that are recorded in the beginning of the year, but then aren't recorded any more time.
Okay. Okay. Questions? Well, if anybody thinks of one, I'm sure the finance director would be happy to answer them. But yeah, thank you for that explanation. 6A4, strategic plan review and updates. Jeff? Vice Chair Dickinson? Okay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give a little background here, so the current strategic plan was passed in 2018. We had COVID, which then led to a revision and an extension of the strategic plan, which was done in 2023. Outcome measures lasting through 2024, generally speaking. So this isn't a discussion on extending anything in the current plan, since you know we're working on a new comprehensive plan, which then will lead next year to a new 5-year strategic plan. So really, this is just for your committee to look at the objectives 5.2 and 6.3 and the outcome measures that are listed there, which I believe most, maybe 5 of the 6 ended in 2024, for you to discuss that, and simply for the department head then to give updates as necessary. So I'll step back and let you, Mr. Chair, and the ERC committee take it from there.
Well, I guess I would turn to staff to maybe walk us through what they feel we've been on track with and some things that we might have deprioritized over the course of the last year or so. So Lori, do you have any insight to provide?
Yeah, so we can start with objective 5.2. So ERC has 2 objectives in the strategic plan that they have oversight over. The first being 5.2, which is to promote sound land use decisions that conserve and preserve natural resources in decisions with economic development and growth. So for our first outcome measure that was identified in 2023, we said by December 31st, 2024, phosphorus from cropland and farmsteads in the Fenwood Creek watershed will be reduced by 20% or 14,016 pounds. I'm going to ask our conservation manager, Kirsty Heidenreich, to give you a status on where we are with that reduction and what else we're working on to get to that number. So,
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you. With the Fenwood Creek watershed, we've given quite a few updates over the past few years in terms of grants we've received. We have also had 2 runs through the legislature to try to get a statewide bill through to get increased funding for the Fenwood Creek watershed, to roll out our Fenwood pilot project to the whole watershed. The Fenwood pilot project is reducing thousands of pounds of phosphorus a year, but we ultimately just do not have enough funding to roll it out to the watershed further. We also went before the county board to ask for ARPA funds for more FedWin funding. So we have seen some good progress, but it likely is slowed down just a little bit more due to essentially needing more funds to do incentive-based payments, which we are very confident are working. The good news is we have reduced, we led to about a 13% reduction in the watershed, which is about 8,980 pounds of phosphorus. So we're still short by 5,036 pounds of phosphorus, which is 7% short of the goal. So we're confident that, you know, we'll get there probably in the next year or so, but just we're not able to achieve that within 2 years as originally planned.
Questions on that one?
Okay, so it sounds like there's still work to do with that one. Okay, so then outcome measure 2.
So outcome measure 2, by December 31st, 2025, Marathon County will hold one continuing education event per year for all towns to better educate them on sound land use development options. We did implement that as of last year. In July of last year, we did invite all the towns to a continuing education event at the Lakeview Conference Center. My staff can give you a little bit more of an update on that, but also in the last year, we've held 2 rounds of open houses for ordinance updates and we always accept invites to town meetings as well to go and educate towns on anything they want to know related to zoning. I think in 2024, we attended approximately 15 different town meetings doing that type of education, and we are planning another all-town invite for continuing education this year. We know with today's elections, there'll be some new staff coming on board at the town, so we're waiting for that to happen, and then we'll schedule something in probably summer or fall again to do another event with them. Do you want to talk about the event that happened last July?
Yeah, so last July, we spent a lot of time discussing township roles as it relates to county zoning and what their role is in that, whether that's their role in determining conditional use permits, variances, their role with rezones that this committee oversees. We did also talk about, just in general for all of the towns, the importance of their comprehensive plan and what that should be used for. And honestly, there was a lot of good discussion there, good ideas brought forth from the townships that did come. Either we did offer it virtually or in person. So it was a well-attended event, and I think both the county and the townships got quite a bit out of it.
Okay, so it sounds like that one is on track then? Okay. Questions? All right. Number 3.
So outcome measure 3, by December 31st, 2024, an average of 320 acres of land per year will be acquired for the Marathon County Parks and Forest System, and we have Director Polly here to discuss what's going on with that outcome.
Thank you. This is an outcome that we had, it's part of the strategic plan that was put in there, really more as a knowledge-based outcome that if land becomes available, we work within the idea of promoting, sound land use decisions and conserve and preserve our natural resources. So it is not something that we actively pursue. This has been discussed a few times, that we don't actively pursue going out and buying land. The 320 acres was kind of that average of what had been available really around the time when the mills were closing. The county was able to purchase quite a bit of wooded land that added to our county parks or our county forests. Without, that type of large land. Since then, we've only purchased a few acres here and there. And really, we haven't purchased any land for county parks since 2022, or any land for county forests since 2021, because we only, like I said, we only pursue land that a willing landowner comes to us and says, we would like the county to purchase this land, and then we go through the process of it being assessed. The county only pays the actual appraised value, not above, and that's a decision with the landowner. And in most cases, all the land that we've purchased in the past, I believe, since 2010, when the Knowles Nelson Stewardship Fund has been available, have all been purchased with that, so the county has paid only half of the cost of that land or even less. The last time we purchased county forest land, we were able to actually use 80 acres of a land that was donated to us from the Parks Foundation as a match, so the county, I think, ended up paying $11,000 for 100 acres that we received, or 199 acres that we received. So it's a program that is out there. This is one of those unique outcomes that's been included just to keep at the forefront that if we are to add to our county forest, as our 15-year plan does state, that we have a blocking area that the DNR has approved. If we go out beyond that, we need to get that approved as well. We don't really just go buy land that isn't attached to current contiguous land that we have, unless it makes sense, like a park is needed in that area or a county forest is needed in that area. This is more kept at the forefront that it's important that if we have those opportunities that we keep these, the goal in mind, but it's not something that is an active goal that we pursue. It's a long explanation for all that, sorry.
Yeah, the 199 acres, was that acquired in 2024? When was that acquired?
No, that was in 2021. That was the last time we got county forest land.
Because last year was the conveyance land swap deal, right? That's the only land I can think of that.
Yep. And last year we did a land swap for it was less than an acre for some encroachments we had at Delsville Clare Park. So that was part of our park where we were on the landowners in one area and they were on ours in another area. So we exchanged triangles basically. But we haven't actively, the last time we bought parkland was 3.99 acres in the Delsville Clare in 2018. And that's on the south end. It was a triangle also that was contiguous to our park.
Sure. I don't have a problem with this being a part of the broader list of outcome measures, but maybe this is something that we revise going forward, because if it's something that we aren't actively doing, maybe there's another outcome measure that could take its place. I don't mind it being part of the broader list, if that's something that the county may do. Like you said, we don't actively go out and do it, but it's something we might do. I think for next month, we might explore having something take that spot's place, so.
Yeah, and I think as long as we just keep the idea in the whole comprehensive plan, that as we work on, the 15-year county forest plan and those blocking, or we have the opportunity for that contiguous land, if it makes sense, that's the only time we pursue it. We bring it through the county board.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with that, but
Yep.
if we're talking about accomplishing outcome measures, it's kind of hard to do that with a passive process. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yep,
Yeah,
it does.
okay. So why don't we make a note to explore that for next month, to possibly have a different one for outcome measure 3 or a rearrangement. Other thoughts for that one? Okay. So 6.3 then, Lori?
Right, objective 6.3, to protect and enhance the quantity and quality of potable groundwater and potable surface water supplies. So our 3 outcome measures there: by December 31st, 2024, the Marathon, is the mic? Am I not speaking loud? Okay. By December 31st, 2024, the Marathon County Board of Supervisors will adopt a groundwater protection plan that provides state outcome measures of groundwater quality and quantity. So we are a little behind with this, but we're still on track to get it done this year. It did take us a little longer than planned to get the 1,000 water samples that we wanted to get for that plan. That was completed in 2024. And we did bring you that update on the data in last month's ERC meeting, so we are working on the plan to bring forth to you this year, so you will have that before the end of this year. So.
Okay, sounds like that one would be kept. Questions? All right. Number 2.
By December 31st, 2024, the number of failing pouts will be reduced by 750 systems or more. Happy to report we have well surpassed that. I will let Shad Harvey, our land resources manager, tell you where we are with fixing failing systems in the county.
Yeah, so since 2018 up to 2024, we replaced 835 failing systems. Currently, right now, we're sitting around 360 known systems that are still failing in the county. I would anticipate that number going up this year. We just finished getting the rest of our systems into our maintenance program. We had until the end of, I believe, next year to get them in. But they are all in our system now, and generally when you get a system in, when they're required to get maintenance, the pumpers or the professionals that are going to inspect that identify failing systems. So I anticipate that number will go up a little bit, but we did surpass the 750 by quite a bit, so.
I think we've talked a little internally that obviously we're going to continue to always be pursuing fixing those failing systems. That's going to be an ongoing goal for our department to get all failing systems into compliance. One of the things we've talked a little bit about too is that looking at ways to educate landowners, especially when land is changing hands in a sale or something like that, things we can do there to make people more aware, because that aware if they have a system and how to get that replaced, because that's usually a great opportunity to get a failing system replaced is when you're selling or buying a piece of land. So.
There used to be a process in which the county required a POUTS evaluation for every sale that happened in Marathon County. In 2016, 15 state statute changed that didn't allow us to hold up the sales. But we have had a lot of realtors asking for information and want to get educated on that, because like Lori had mentioned, that is a great time to get those issues addressed, just because there is so much money being transferred. It can generally be worked out in the deal or the transaction. So that would be a good goal if we didn't want to go with a specific number.
So the good news is we've surpassed the number. Then I think the next step is it a priority, which I myself would say yes. And then after that is, how do you wordsmith language to ensure that it stays a priority? Okay. I would not want to see this one go away. Any objections to that? Okay. So for the future then, we would wordsmith it to be flexible. Okay. All right. Number 3.
By December 31st, 2024, an inventory of wellhead protection areas, their associated land use, and delineation of their recharge areas will be compiled. Marathon County will reach out to each municipality to educate them on potential groundwater contamination sources and how to prevent the contamination of its wells. And I'll turn it back over to our conservation manager, Kirsty Heidenreich.
Thank you. I also am able to provide another good news update. It's great to hear all these good news updates in a row. We, as conservation staff, we have been working on helping to put together a GIS layer of the wellhead protection areas and then also the groundwater recharge areas around the municipalities. We have also developed essentially a pilot project for working with rural municipalities on their municipal water issues. And we have talked a little bit about our Athens project with the ERC. One of these days, there's going to be an agenda where we can fit it in, where we can tell you the whole wonderful story about the work that we're doing in Athens, because it's such a heartwarming story. But with the Village of Athens, who has been struggling with increasing nitrates in their municipal water, we've been able to work with the village board, a local farm, and then a private landowner to assist in making a transition from conventional cropland surrounding the wellhead areas into prairie and perennial grasses. And that is kicking off this spring. It's a little over a year in the making, so there's been a lot of really important conversations that happened. And we have seen something similar with Abbotsford, who also had very high nitrates in their municipal water. And they worked with the school district to also convert cropland to prairie to try to reduce those nitrates. So stay tuned for what's happening in Athens, but we really think it is going to be a meaningful model that we can work with our other rural municipalities in the county to make sure that they're safeguarding these wellhead protection areas so that we see nitrates either plateau or decrease over the years instead of increase. And we do have several other rural municipalities who do have increasing nitrates as well. So we're very eager to grow this program, and we've gotten a really good start on it over the past year or two, and this has probably been some of the most rewarding work that we've done as conservation staff in our new and improved groundwater program.
So ongoing then for that one?
Pardon me? I didn't-
Ongoing, Kirsty, right? You wouldn't call that accomplished?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, the way it's spelled out there, it's completed, but it's still ongoing as
Okay.
well. Mhm.
So we'll retain that.
Mhm.
Okay. So staff, do you have anything else to add for the outcome measures? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that we feel good with the things we're still working towards for sure
Yeah.
until we get the new comprehensive plan, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean, or, no.
All right. What other discussion do we have to have today yet, Vice Chair?
No, that was really it. It was
Okay.
just to get the focus back to kind of, put a bow on it.
Okay.
Which, we need to do, and it's a good time to do it in April.
Sure.
Looking back at that, and that's really all I asked, so I appreciate the time.
Okay.
And probably what I'll end up doing is after going to all the committees, is probably give a brief update at an educational meeting, just to kind of tie it all up at the end.
Sounds good.
So thank you for the time, I really appreciate it.
For next month, I would ask staff to please include that broad list, or the complete list of outcome measures that we used to select these 6 from a few years ago. I know I don't know where to find it. I'm sure it's somewhere, but because I would like us to have some discussion yet about outcome measure 3 for 5.2, and we'll of course relay that to you.
Yeah, and what I would say is, I don't think there needs to be an update to the document. I think really what it is it's really having a general discussion about the new comprehensive plan and kind of seeing where those pieces may
Okay.
fit in, is the way I
Okay.
would look at that.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we are done with that. 6A4, we are on to 6A5, discussion of Chapter 9 of the Marathon County Comprehensive Plan.
All right. So in your packet for this month, we have a working draft of Chapter 9, the land use chapter of the Marathon County Comprehensive Plan that we're working to update by next year with the county board. So this is the chapter that focuses on land use, so demand and future demand within the county. Definitely there's some parts of this chapter I would say that have overlaps with the natural resource chapter and the water quality chapter as well, for sure. We brought the natural resource chapter to you a few months ago, and water quality will probably be next month or June that we'll bring that to the ERC. We have gone through and updated the studies that are referenced in this chapter, and we have been updating quite a bit of the data. I just wanted to highlight a couple things we wanted to talk to this committee about and get some input on. We go down to the data. So we have updated existing land use data, but we're also looking at bringing in some additional data points that we have that we think would be really good to inform how farming is changing within our county. So we have our CPZ Transect survey data that we collect every 2 years for the last 2 decades that tells us a little bit about what's going on with land use within the county. We also have a lot of data sets that we can bring in that talk about changes in farm characteristics, and we also talked about that another good point of data might be to actually include some information about rezones within the county, because we are seeing quite a few more rezones than we used to have a decade ago, and we're definitely seeing more rezones of agricultural to residential land for sure, so that might just be another data source we could bring to bear. We've updated the equalized real estate value data in this working draft. One thing we did want to talk to you about, and I have Christian here from the Regional Planning Commission to help talk us through this a little bit, is in the past, in this part of the chapter, when we talk about land demand, we talk about growth projections. And if you're not aware, earlier this year, the DOA did put out new growth projections for the county, indicating that they anticipate seeing a decline in population within the county. That, for planning purposes, I don't know a lot of counties or people who do plans who tend to put things in a plan that showed decline in growth. And I think the Regional Planning Commission can also speak to their conversations with other counties who saw that data come out earlier this year and also struggled with that. So the Regional Planning Commission has worked on an alternative model or method that some counties have been using to project growth rather than show a decline in growth. But I'll let Christian explain a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so we, recently our office we completed the North Central Wisconsin Regional Comprehensive Plan, so it covered the 10-county region that we work in. And in the plan, we included the Wisconsin Department of Administration population projections that did show, just for example, Marathon County declining by around 5.5% between 2020 and 2050. So that is something that a lot of the counties in our region did have a decline. But we also, in the plan, did a alternative population projection. And for Marathon County, this would be an increase in population. We calculated this based off of just the past population growth rate. Obviously, Marathon County has seen some growth in the last 10 to 20 years. So we carried that population growth to show a 15% increase between 2022 and 2040. So that is something that we could consider using in the comprehensive plan if we wanted to show an increase of population.
Yeah, so I think the proposal is we would still acknowledge the DOA projections, but we would also bring forth this other model as well to show that we might also anticipate growth. So, and that's kind of a question of the committee if you had a feeling either way on that.
Well, if you're forecasting and one set of variables is telling a decrease and one set is telling an increase, it sounds like, what's the difference in variables that you're using versus the DOA? I'm curious.
So the DOA, I can't tell you exactly how they calculate it. I mean, it takes them a long time to calculate it. I mean, they use birth rate and death rate and migration patterns. So there's kind of a formula that they use. The calculation that we used for our regional comprehensive plan was really just a population change. There's not really a science to that. So there is, some potential that it's an overly optimistic population change, but I think it does show maybe a little bit more what we've seen over the last couple of years, which has been a population growth as opposed to a decline. So that's kind of how the DOA found their population projections.
And what was your number, the increase, what was it again?
So we had about a 15% increase.
15%?
Yep.
And DOA is saying shrinkage at 2.2? What was it?
Marathon County was
5%.
5.5% decrease.
I've hogged the mic enough, if anybody else would like to offer their thoughts. Supervisor Kroll. Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just looking at the historical population of Marathon County, and for the last 30, 40 years, it ranges between 3 to 9% population growth. So I'm curious how you came up with 25% in 15% in 15 years. I'm just looking at Wikipedia. It just has like percentage breakdowns. Maybe it's like using the wrong data. But this is based off the U.S. Census. But I guess essentially is like if 15% seems like very high from what we've already seen the past 30 years. We haven't touched those numbers in a while.
And I don't mean to interrupt you, by the way, we're not being critical.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think we're all just trying to understand.
We're just trying to figure it out.
Yep.
And those are fair questions. I didn't calculate these, so I'm not entirely sure what went into that. I'm just going off of what I took from the regional comprehensive plan. I can get back to staff and double check those numbers because, like I said, I haven't looked into exactly the 15% does seem high. I would agree with that, but I can confirm that is in fact what was calculated, because I would agree it is high.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sorry to interrupt you, Supervisor. That's, sure. That's fine if we follow up. I don't have an issue with that. Does anybody from the committee have a? Okay, so we'll revisit that. One thing I wanted to add, I don't think there's anything in this about assessment classifications. You know, assessing is based on how land is used, not how it's zoned, right? There's the 8 categories for property assessment. Is there a way to get data through assessing to possibly add to this with, you know, how much of it is in ag, how much of it is in, you know, residential, how much of it is commercial? I think that might be something useful to add here.
So I think, but Chris, it's,
It should be part of the data.
yeah, I think it actually is this
Oh,
is
right,
actually-
wait, right there?
Yeah.
Hey, there we go. Okay,
Yeah.
good, it's there.
If you're looking for,
Changed much
Sure.
in the last 30 years?
Yep.
Yes, sir. You're looking at an.
you can't touch the mic.
Yeah. That's so I guess the public. Okay, I hope I didn't, can you hear me? Okay. Primarily agricultural uses have maintained a steady pace in terms of over the decades. Commercial growth is still under 2%, industrial's under 2%, it's like 1.7% of total land area in the county. So, you know, if you look at it, we really should be trying to drive, I know we want to preserve agricultural activities and rural feel, but in order to drive revenue and increase general wealth in general, we really should be trying to look at areas where we can promote commercial, industrial, economic development within the county so we can increase our general wealth as a whole. We've primarily maintained status quo in terms of the current land uses that occur over the county. I really don't foresee it changing very much. Even the land uses related to agriculture, you may see more row crop occurring now than in the past, which can be problematic in terms of soil stabilization and soil health. But we do have that data that will be incorporated into the plan, long and short. Thanks.
Are you seeing more land put into managed forest or in ag forest?
No, ma'am.
So I'm good with that being in there. Other comments, questions?
I did
Okay.
want to go over a couple other things in the
Yes,
chapter.
yeah.
Okay. So a couple other things just to highlight that we'll be adding in, since the 2016 plan was completed, we did add portions to our Chapter 17 zoning code on metallic mining and wind and solar regulations, so we want to make sure that gets into the update. And then when we took a look at the issues, we did redo the issues a little bit just to try and characterize what some of the things we think are going on in the county right now, including continuing to manage growth and preserve rural character. So just balancing the need, that need for residential development, but what it looks like in the urban areas versus what it looks like in the rural areas might be a little bit different, or where the county can help have influence might be different depending on if we're talking about rural or urban areas. We did keep in here an issue around agriculture, and that there continues to be pressures and financial pressures especially to keep farming, but we also believe as a county there's a lot that we can continue to do in terms of coordination and encouragement with policies to help promote agriculture and promote conservation within agriculture, so we wanted to make sure to capture that within the issues. And then carrying this issue over from Chapter 4, Community Character, we also put in there the housing supply issue, so just recognizing that costs remain high, we still have a problem with sometimes finding enough housing, and again, figuring out how the county can have influence in helping to develop more housing within the county, be it in an urban or a rural area. We did redo the objectives of the goal a little bit to try and reduce some redundancy in the objectives and also capture what we thought was the appropriate objective as it relates to land use. So the 4 new objectives that we have in the working draft right now are promote the preservation of agricultural land, promote practices that preserve soil health and land productivity, encourage revitalization of former residential properties in rural areas, and provide tools for managing and coordinating growth. This is our first working draft of this chapter, so you don't have to give your comments today, but if you do have any or other things you want to make sure that we address, we'll take that back and start working on that, and then you'll get to see a full draft later this year. So,
Any input to provide right now from the committee? All right, we'll revisit this over the course of the next few months or next year.
within the next year, well, within the next year, before the end of this year.
All right. Thank you, staff. And, thank you, Christian, for assisting us. All right, 7, we got nothing. 8, next meeting, April 29, 2025, 3 PM. Assembly room and future agenda items. A, committee members asked to bring ideas for future discussions. B, announcements, requests, correspondence. Right. Okay, so I've got Mike and then Marilyn. So Mike, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be real quick. I just thought it'd be good to mention, Kirsty had mentioned that she was down in Madison today. Her and Matt Repking drove down there for State Land and Water Board meeting. I attended virtually for the part that pertained to Marathon County. After our presentation, which was led by Kirsty and Matt, the response was incredible. Marathon County has been and still are pioneers in the state, and we are setting the standard in the state for conservation. I'd say it's fair to say they're kind of blown away at some of the stuff that we are accomplishing and trying to accomplish in Marathon County. And there was very good comments about this committee and county conservation staff. So I just want to give everybody a pat on the back. We're doing great, and the rest of the state recognizes us.
All right, Marilyn.
I received something from a person on the ARPA well compensation grant program through the Wisconsin DNR, where that they would be able to do replacement of well contamination. I would like the staff to look at this and to see if this is something that could happen, and I will give you the information that a flyer that they could have $16,000 to replace a contaminated well, but I think it had to be with ARPA funds. So I'll have you look at it and then bring back your comments at the next meeting.
All right, another announcements, request, correspondence. Staff, do you have anything? All right. Number 9, who wants to make it? Supervisor Seafeld with the motion, second by Supervisor Drabek. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, staff. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you, everybody who showed up today to assist with the meeting. Appreciate it. Thank you.